Hi, thanks for joining me for this video on core values. Now, when we think about core values, we often think of big corporations and organizations and the values that they bring to the marketplace, but it really is something so much more profound and intimate than that. Our core values are the rules that guide all of our decisions and all of our understanding. It is what forms our worldview. Our values are set around the time we're 7. So you need to dig back into your mind about your family of origin and what kinds of values were planted in you as a young child in your life. Core values are really the way to which we understand our place in the world and what we deem important. Now, we might fight for what's important, we might fight for what's just and what's right, but in actual fact, somebody else could hold very different values than us and be fighting for what's just and right as well. So core values are subjective. I mean, what is a core value to me might be something that you very much don't support. Right? So we can't necessarily just think there's one blanket core value list for everybody. No, it's very personal, it's very subjective. And so when you have two people in a relationship, in a tight, very integrated relationship, and they have perhaps core values that don't align with each other, or they're in direct opposition, you might have constant conflict over certain topics in your relationship, and you just think, there's no way around this. We cannot solve this. Partly that's true, and maybe this is a perpetual problem because it's based on a values conflict. It's not a task conflict where you can break it down differently and do it differently, and then all of a sudden the conflict disappears. No, having a values conflict is the most fundamental conflict that you can have in your core, right? It actually defines who you are. So if you believe one thing very deeply and your partner believes the opposite of that very deeply, chances are you cannot talk about that issue, right? And we can pick any of the hot social, kind of social or environmental topics in the world right now: abortion, gun rights, immigration, welfare state, any of those kinds of things. And if you are on opposite sides of that issue, that's a core value conflict. That is much harder to deal with in your relationship than some of the other kinds of conflict that we talked about earlier. So why core values are important is because this could be driving some of your conflict, or it could actually be preventing you from really fulfilling and experiencing the awesomeness of the other person because you haven't really thought about the things that guide your life, right? So when you get into the core value conversation, you really talk about, what do I stand for? Who am I in the world? And what do I believe to be true, right? It's not what is true, because true is subjective, right? What's true for one person might not actually be true for somebody else. So what do I believe to be true? And when we start taking some of our conflicts and breaking them down, you will find that there's a core value conflict piece in that ongoing perpetual conflict problem, right? So perhaps you might have the core value of dividing household expenses 50-50 no matter what, right? You saw your parents do that. They tally up the monthly bills and they cut it in half, and partner A pays half, partner B pays half. Well, how does that work when one person makes substantially more than another person? Or what happens when somebody is a stay-at-home parent? And so there's lots of opportunity for you to have values conflicts in your relationship, especially earlier on. But even if you've been together for a long time, I know there are things that you just think, oh no, I don't talk to my partner about those things because that just ends in a fight, or that just ends in somebody storming off. That's a values conflict. So when we think about values, we really need to get down to what our personal values are, because there's really no point in us trying to discern what our values are for our partners, because that's their garden, Remember, let them sort out their values in their garden, and you're going to sort out your values in your garden. And so on the screen, I want you to look at this list. And I know this feels very overwhelming. It's 130 plus words, and it is just a starting point. There is absolutely nothing definitive about this list. It is really just a place to start. It's in your workbook too. So I want you to read through this list, and I want you to think about what words really speak to who you are. What words do you fight for? What campaigns do you donate to? What nonprofits do you support? What do you get riled up about at Thanksgiving dinner with your family? What causes do you take up? What articles do you read? What books do you gravitate towards? What podcasts do you listen to? Think about what you naturally do in the world, and you can extrapolate some of your core values pretty easily. If you need some help, there is this list. So on this list, as I said, there's 130 plus words. Start picking out words that really are defining for you. And what we want to do is get about 15 or 20 top choices. So they can be words that you came up with, or you can find them on this list. By all means, this is just a launching pad for your core value collection. Once you have your 15 or 20, I want you to whittle them down to the top 10. Because I think when you look at 20 words, you can start to see trends or patterns. You can start to see where some things are important to you, but they're not core values, right? Like the core of who you are. When you get to the 10, I want you to just reflect on each word individually. What does it mean? Because remember, a word that you learned in North Carolina could mean very different than a word, the same word that somebody learned about in Saskatchewan, Canada, or in, Alaska, or in Southern California. So what does that word mean for you? So culturally, geographically, generationally, words evolve, right? So words that I use now, my children often will make fun of me for, but they're also like, that's not what it means. And I'm like, what do you mean? This is exactly what this word means, but it doesn't mean that anymore, right? So the language keeps evolving. So when you think about your words, really have the story of why this is important to you, why it's an actual core value. I think in that exercise, most people find that there are a couple that are like, yeah, this is important, but would I, is this the hill that I'm going to plant my flag and fight tooth and nail for? No. But these other words, oh yes, those are exactly the words that define me. And what you want to get to is a place in which when somebody reads your 5 core words, your top 5 choices, and then they know that those are your core words, they can say, I totally see that. I totally see that. Like that's exactly who that person is. If somebody reads your list and sees your name attached to it and thinks, I don't see it, there's a disconnect. Either you are not being authentic, you are not putting your true self out into the world, or you picked words that might sound good, or you think your partner might appreciate. And this is often the case with clients that I work with who are in relationships for a long time with strong personalities. They have become the person that they know their partner appreciates, but that isn't actually authentically who they are. Right? So they are answering as if, oh, my partner really likes me to be decisive, right? My partner appreciates when I'm reliable. Great. Do you appreciate when you're reliable? Are you going to say that I am reliable above most other people in the world? I'm the most reliable person. You can count on me for anything, no matter day and night, morning and evening, sun up, sundown. I will be there. I am reliable. If you're just answering what your partner likes of you, what your parents liked of you, what you are rewarded for in your family or at your work, that's not a core value, right? That's not a core value. So I want you to kind of really get into the muck and just start pulling out all the layers of things that we pile on top of our core values as coping strategies or as people-pleasing tendencies or as ways to connect, right? Sacrifices that we've made or changes that we've made to ourselves to be more attractive or more, connected to other people. You've got to get to the core of who you are. So really, these words need to speak to you. They need to be that profound. Now, what happens now is you get your list, you have your 5, maybe 7. Your partner should also have gone through this experience and also identified their core values, their 20, their 10, their 5, or 7. And now what you get to do is you get to tell your partner each of your words and why it's a core value. So if your core value is that you are very encouraging, and that is who you are, and you are out there cheering on the world, you might have conflict with your partner sometimes where you will have a call from a friend and they're in distress and you drop everything and you run to help that person. And you want to encourage them through their hard time, and you want to, cheer them on at their graduation, and you want to do all the things and go to their, to everybody's little league game and everybody's graduation ceremony, and you really want to be that person. Your partner might feel neglected, right? And they might feel abandoned sometimes because you are choosing to be such an encouraging person, but that takes you further away from them. So if you explain why encouraging is so important to you, perhaps you didn't get it as a child, and you know how profound it would be as a young person to have somebody believe in you. And that's why you are a teacher, or that's why you are a baseball coach, or that is why you volunteer at the Boys and Girls Club, because you know the power of encouragement for young people. Then when this situation arises, your partner isn't going to be feeling, oh wow, I'm abandoned. They're going to think, wow, look at what my partner gets to do. Changing lives. That's amazing, right? So they understand the way you see the world and what guides your decisions. Now, what would be awesome is if you have your 5 to 7, your partner has their 5 to 7, and there are 2 or 3 that overlap, right? So if you both are meticulous and you both think, oh, we are very meticulous and we are very detail oriented, you have that in common, then you can build on that, and you can bring recreational ideas, and you can bring travel ideas, and you can bring home decor ideas, and you can bring project planning ideas, and be on the same page, right? So you already have this shared, ritual of connection because your core value of meticulousness and being so thorough and being, very, very much perfect planners, and that is something you both do, and you can both get excited and count on each other to do. And that's a beautiful thing. Having shared values is an amazing thing, but what's also amazing is that you identify your core values that are different, right? So on the next slide, you will see that there's a place for you to put what are your core values, what are your partner's core values, and then what might be some of the shared values, so that you keep in mind when you are making decisions, where does this land? Very much like the family garden, right? Where does this land? Oh, this person, my partner, is making this decision because her core value is efficiency. So she just decides, you know what, I am going to do this as efficiently as possible. I'm not going to waste time. I'm not wasting resources. I'm not wasting energy. I am all in. Where your partner might be a little bit more of a thinker and a slower processor, and they might like to meander around the aisles, and you want to go into the store, grab your thing, and get out. And you're always, anxious and frustrated. Why are you taking so long in this store? And they're like, why are you rushing me? I want to see what's here. I want to enjoy this. I want to, go to the farmer's market and see all the things. I don't just want to go buy the honey and run away, right? So you fight about something so simple like going to the store or going to the market, and you don't understand why they're so difficult. Well, look at this. Your partner is efficient. Go in, get the thing, come out. And the other partner is a little bit more like experiential. I want to see what's here. I want to meander. I want to say hi to the farmers. I want to ask how their crops are doing, right? That could be a huge winter storm, but all of a sudden you think, oh, wait a minute here. Okay, so this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna meander. You're gonna go and get what you want, and you're gonna come back to the car and you can read a book or listen to a podcast, or you can, come back for me later, or you can make a plan, because you're not meandering to upset the efficient spouse, and the efficient spouse is not rushing the meander because they want to be mean. They're just living out their core values. But it's a conflict, right? But now that you know that, you can say, actually, today feels like a meandering day for me. I want to go to the market and I want to see the flowers and I want to do all the things. So, I can go early and meander, and we can meet afterwards and grab a cup of coffee and come home. Or why don't you just tell me what's on your list to buy and I'll go take care of it, because I really could spend an hour just, walking up and down the stalls, right? Your efficient spouse might be very grateful and say, great, take that off my list because I don't enjoy that. I really want to do these other things. So if you can take care of buying the vegetables for dinner, I can do other things. Awesome. Win, win, win. So good luck on getting your core values organized. I think it's a really profound exercise. I hope you spend some time and revisit it. Your core values are pretty set, but sometimes we don't always have the words, or we don't remember because we haven't lived those experiences. So just keep checking in with your core values over time, and check with your partner and see how you can align so that any of your conflict that comes up does not become a winter storm. It really just becomes, okay, we have different core values. How can we make this work? Anyways, have a wonderful afternoon, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.